What is up, everybody? I hope you're having a wonderful day. As I do this very hard boss fight in the Hanging Gardens on Auto Battle, let me talk to you about the 5 initial classes and why I think they are good and rate them based on their early effectiveness. Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? Let's talk about the initial classes and how good or bad they are at the beginning of the game. Yeah. So, what do we got? Well, we got the Wizard, the Warrior, the Archer, the Rune Fencer, and the Cleric. I tried to make this video before, and I went too much on the Cleric, so we're going to start with the Cleric and then try to keep it short and sweet. But the Cleric is one of those classes that I am very disappointed in, and I find they destroyed him in this game, and a lot of people think the Cleric is utterly useless, and I would agree almost. The Cleric does have use. A lot of people still like the Cleric, I guess. They try to cling to the old, gotta have a healer thing. But with items being so OP in this game, and the fact that they decided to triple the hit points of everything, where at the end of the first game, or the end of the PSP one, you were lucky to have 1,000 hit points. Now you have 1,000 hit points by like Chapter 2. So they didn't change the way healing worked up until that. So, you don't have percent healing until heal 4, and every heal is just 100 more. So, heal 1 is 150, heal 2 is 250, heal 3 is 350, a little bit here and there. And it just doesn't really leave a good taste in your mouth, especially when you start getting percent healing items as early as Chapter 2. But we're not talking about that. That's all I wanted to say about that. The Cleric, like I said, has its most usefulness in Chapter 1. I feel the Cleric is the most useful, the most valuable in Chapter 1, and that is why I don't think they're a useless unit, because you don't have access to items, you don't have access to the other stuff that you need to make them work. So they have that value, and I wish they retained that value through the whole game. But I do really think you need a Cleric in the beginning of the game, or else you really have no way to heal. And you can't rely on items, and you don't have a lot of classes that can heal. So Cleric, Chapter 1, super useful. Leads us to our next one, the Archer. Now, Archer, got kind of nerfed in PSP, and in Chapter 1, I don't feel the Archer to be as strong as later in the game. I feel like it's probably the weakest point of the Archer. Having one's fine. Like, I don't think you shouldn't have one. But I definitely feel like, until they get access to more of their abilities, and they get some of the good status bows and other things, Archer's damage is going to be kind of lackluster unless you're hitting, like, caster units or healers. And even then, it's not that great. But the Archer still is nice. But I do feel the Archer is probably the weakest out the gate. Like, if you had a level 1 unit, level 1 to 10 unit, I would say Archer's the weakest out of the initial, 5? The initial 5 we get to choose from. So I would say the Archer is the weakest. But they are very good. They are very good later on once you get everything going. Now, that leads me to the Warrior, which is a phenomenal class in the beginning of the game. It's actually the one Denim starts as, and with Denim starting as this class, you could keep him as a warrior through the whole game, and you would do very well. You would do fairly well, wouldn't run into too many problems. The Warrior is what it is. It's a literal, unit on the front line that has great offense, great defense. It performs very well in the beginning of the game, especially when you're not dealing with a lot of the hybrid classes, a lot of the different classes, a lot of the unique classes, that are a little bit more, specialized. And I think the Warrior is very, very decent at the beginning. Not too many issues. And the birds would agree, in case you can't tell. They very much agree. Now, that leads me to the Wizard, which, while the Wizard kind of feels like one of the only stepping stone classes in the game, one of the only classes that kind of just leads to other casters, if you know what I mean. The Wizard does fall off later on, just due to the fact you have better options, and even if you use a Wizard as a debuffer, there's so many better ways to apply debuffs. But at the beginning of the game, the Wizard shines insanely good. They are one of the best starter classes due to magic, and they fill kind of that role. But the only downside to the Wizard in the beginning is going to be MP generation. You're going to have trouble, getting and maintaining MP because you don't have the higher tier meditates and stuff. So you might have a turn or two during a match where you don't really do anything because you're not going to auto attack with the Wizard. But they are useful. They are good. They might be a little bit weaker than some of the other starters, but they're still very good. And of course, my favorite class, and the class that I think is amazingly good even at the beginning of the game, and that is the Rune Fencer. The Rune Fencer is one of the top classes in the game, and it's top all the way through. It only gets stronger as you progress. It might be at its weakest at the beginning because you can't take advantage of all of its optional, you know, how do we say, all of its optional options. It's because it can do a variety of things, you know, and you can't really use all those powers at the beginning of the game. So, you know, the utility isn't as much there. You kind of gotta, you know, you can't just do one of everything at the beginning. But over time you will, and it will mold into a pretty awesome class that can just do a little bit of everything, you know, and that's what makes it so good. And it gets access to summons, which are the strongest spells in the game. You know, it's just got so much going for it that you can't go wrong with it. So at the end of the day, with the 5 starters, I would probably put Rune Fencer on top, followed by Warrior, followed by Wizard, Cleric, and Archer. Archer would be the weakest. I only rate Cleric higher because heals are pretty important in the beginning. But that's how I would rate the 5 initial starter classes you can make and how they perform at the beginning of the game. Let me know how you guys feel they perform. What do you think? You know, who do you think's the strongest? Do you think Wizard's the strongest? Do you think, you know, Warrior? You know, keep in mind I'm only referencing Chapter 1 as much as I tried not to talk about anything past Chapter 1. But just at the beginning, you know, when you're a brand new player, you know, which ones work the best, which ones are the best. I would love to hear your guys' feedback and your input and what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Until then, later guys. Peace out. Have a good one.